Hello. Earlier today, I had the lovely opportunity to deliver a crash course kind of talk on personal branding to over 400 people in the audience. And these were people who were engineers all the way to directors and sales representatives. So, this is probably the only video you need to watch if you're beginning on your personal brand building journey. In today's session, I will not tell you things that you already know. Preparing for this talk, I gave myself a couple of challenges. First of all, I wanted to make this as information dense as possible. And secondly, I wanted to make this the most interesting talk on personal branding that you have ever attended. It's my challenge to make this worth your time. It may seem like a bold claim. I've begun with a bold promise, but that's also what a personal brand is. It's a promise.
It is an expectation. When I start speaking, what is it that you expect from me?
This promise that we're talking about has to be two things. Firstly, it has to be very, very specific. And secondly, it has to be very, very true. I'll give you an example.
When Bitcoin became the rage in 2010 and people started investing in it because they thought it was a replacement for cash, they thought it was a replacement for the existing financial system, those people are gone. They haven't stayed invested. But those that were told that it's a volatile asset class and something that could double up your money or you could lose it entirely, it's going to be an exciting bet against the future of the financial system that has irregularities, those people stayed.
The second promise was a very specific one and a very true one. Instead of telling you why you need a personal brand, I want to tell you why I think I need a personal brand. It's simply because I love to show up in a way where I can get someone's time and attention without having to beg for it. Now, if I tried to deliver this workshop 5 years ago, the organizers, you would have asked me, why you? It's an existential question. Who am I? Am I good enough? But I want you to ask yourself another existential question. Will people miss me if I am gone? And there are three possible answers to this.
The first one is yes, your colleagues will miss you, in which case, congratulations, you already have a personal brand. The second possibility that no, your colleagues will not miss you and you don't care. You don't care whether they'll miss you or not. Then congratulations, you don't need a personal brand. But the third possibility is that no, you will not be remembered and you care and you know what to do. You need to build a brand for yourself.
But do you know how to do it? I'm going to quote Gary Vaynerchuk here. I'd begin with digging myself a small little hole and staying in that hole until I hadn't done the work that allowed me to have the audacity to build a brand. Now, I can't come out of the gates swinging my arms saying I will build my brand today. It simply won't work because I won't have the confidence to own it. I need to become a person of value first. What am I good at? What do I like doing? What do I want to be known for? These three questions need to align. They need to sort of overlap one on top of the other. And that overlapping area is the brand that you need to build.
You may be good at writing code, but you may not want to be known for it. What is it that you want to be known for?
So let's say you have done the work. Let's say you have put in the effort to understand what your personal brand needs to be. You're ready to build your brand. In that case, generously ship your work to a small group of people in the right genre to make a connection. I want to give you an example from Twitter. I want to talk about this person called Sahil Bloom. At the start of the pandemic, he was somebody who was working in finance, held a highly paid job, but always wanted to become a writer. He hadn't really begun his writing journey yet. So in 2020, he made a promise to write content every single day, write quality threads every single day on Twitter and post it without fail. I think he began with something like 500 followers on Twitter. And as of today, his following on Twitter has now increased an enormous amount to 862,000 followers. Not that that metric means anything. It's simply that consistency will cause your brand to grow. At this point, you might ask yourself a question. Who should you build this brand for? Some of you may come out and say that I want to build this brand for myself. I'm building this brand for myself. Sure, but who's going to consume your brand? Whom are you trying to influence with your brand?
This has proven to be tricky for most people. This is a seemingly obvious question. Who do I build a brand for? But out of the 10 people that I spoke to, all 10 of them said this is the trickiest part. But what the 10 people had in agreement was that you can't be a mass marketer.
You should not reach everyone. You should reach a specific audience and one that you decide for yourself. You get to decide. Now, I like to give this example of Bollywood.
Just like how Salman Khan makes his movies. I don't know if you know Salman Khan. But if you're not familiar with the Indian film industry, he's a mega superstar whose movies we've stopped watching a long time ago. And it's simply because if you have an IQ level above 50, his movies are not for you. His movies are for a different kind of audience, and that is by design. That is by design. We sort of sometimes like to intellectually think, why is Bollywood, why is Salman Khan and Shah Rukh Khan not making movies for us? For us who want to see good film scripts. But we're not their audience. So define who your audience is.
Also, it is very important to point out that social media is not a brand. You are a brand, and social media is simply your megaphone. Without a megaphone, without a loudspeaker, you can't tell the world about what you do. So get comfortable using that megaphone. I think it was Austin Kleon, the author of the book Steal Like an Artist, who said this. He said, instead of showing your latte on social media, show your work. I don't care if you use LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or if you're somebody who's still living in the year 2010, Facebook. Doesn't matter. At any given point, realize we're connected to 2 billion cell phone devices, smartphones with an internet connection in the world. Yet we're worried about the wrong metrics. How many Instagram followers do I have? How many YouTube subscribers do I have? It doesn't matter. Even if you have 13 Instagram followers, 1-3, if you're adding value to all 13 of them, you're using your megaphone right. Also realize this. Every time your imposter syndrome kicks in, we all have this tendency to feel like we're not good enough. Remind yourself that everything that has to be said has already been said. And the game you're in is picking one niche and restating something that has already been said. If something's already been said, say it better. All of us have 4 common challenges that we're facing unanimously across the board. The first one is that as humans, we're always bouncing between fear and possibility. It's always the two things, fear and possibility, two opposite ends of the spectrum. Think about possibility more times than you think about fear. Fear could be a victim mindset saying, do I have to put out my information or message in front of 100 people? Will people think I'm stupid? That's fear. That's fear speaking. Possibility is, out of the 100 people that I speak to, could even one of them find it useful? How great would it be if one of them found it useful? Second challenge. Your enemy is not that somebody will steal your idea. Your enemy is obscurity, that you'll be lost as an unknown. Third challenge. We have a tendency to think, who wants to hear my stories? I'm so boring. I don't have an interesting life. I simply have to ask you, do you have a competitor? Inevitably, yes. All of us have a competitor. It could be somebody whom you're working with. It could be somebody on your team whom you fight with for appraisals. It could be somebody whom you're fighting against for a promotion. If you have a competitor, your responsibility, simply stated, is to make it easier for your stakeholders to find you than your competitor. Make it extremely easy for people to find you as compared to your competitor. Fourth challenge. If you continuously view the problem as how do I show my work to hundreds of people, like we mentioned before, you will see it as a victim. Change the perspective around and start thinking about how you can give and be generous. It helps you get out of your own head. I always say this, there are no hacks in life. Don't ever believe someone who says, here's hacks to get better at XYZ, here's what you can do to get better at public speaking. Hacks don't exist. I also want to say that here's a simple hack to brand yourself. I'm kidding. There are no hacks. Here's a useful suggestion. Combine two things that don't go together. For example, a bear in a circus is kind of cool. A man riding a unicycle, it's interesting. But a bear riding a unicycle is something that I've never seen, and I'll pay money to watch it. This is something that Naval Ravikant pointed out on the Joe Rogan podcast. I was invited by Indian Institute of Management Lucknow, IIM Lucknow, about 3 months ago to deliver a workshop on storytelling for business for their MBA grad student. My parents always wanted me to go to an IIM and I wasn't smart enough to get in. So here's me going and delivering a talk to them. It felt like life had come a full circle. Now the event went great. After the workshop, I just had one question to the professor who invited me. How did you find me? Why did you invite me? She only said, I searched for storyteller, speaker, and these tags on LinkedIn, and you popped up all over the place. What I'm trying to say is, plant seeds. Many will die. Some will repay. But the ones that will repay will do so months, maybe years down the line.
Oh, yeah, we have a question. Any advice for a perfectionist who is scared of putting work because they don't see it as good enough or not being good enough? Perfectionism, I feel, is procrastination in disguise. I think confidence comes from
creation from movement. When you start creating, you become more confident. When you start posting, you become more confident. If you wait for the perfect piece of creation that you want to ship to your community, the more inaction leads to more lack of confidence. Confidence comes with motion. I
Thank
think
you,
Vanessa
Jan.
had a question.
For my question is that how can we differentiate creating a personal brand into building a good legacy? Or can we actually differentiate that?
Jimmy Carr is a stand-up comedian from the UK whom I really love listening to. He has snappy one-liners. He came on a podcast and he said, legacy in the previous generation used to be wealth that we left behind for the next generation. Legacy in this generation is a concept of memorability. Will we be remembered after we're gone? That's so true. I think we owe it to ourselves to build it.
Hi Rahul, great session.
Thank
I
you so
just
much.
wanted to ask a question which is kind of confusing for me.
Mhm.
So suppose I get a trigger that okay, I'm going to work on my skills from today onwards, and as a person, I have a lot of social media distraction. So some people choose to like go off the grid, deactivate everything just to focus on the work, on the skills, and to get it done. So is this a right approach compared to the people who learn and then share it little bit of pieces of information they are like learning every day and then sharing it to the social media?
So, Shikhar, I would say you need to be a drug dealer here. You need to be like Pablo Escobar. He produced cocaine but never consumed it himself. So that's the approach you'll need to pick because we are what we consume, right? It's not just food, it's also content, it's also the information that we consume. So be very picky about the stuff that you consciously consume. And going off the grid to create content that you can come back and start producing, shipping one by one, I would say is not a sustainable approach.